As the first step of engine block disassembly, I'm gonna remove the exhaust. The header is fixed by two nuts the size of 10 millimeters, and it's fixed to the crankcase by a bolt the size of 13 millimeters. I'm gonna use them. And this cooling cover is also to be removed. The flywheel cover is fixed by 3 screws. The rotor is fixed by a nut size of 90 millimeters, so I use an impact wrench to loosen it. To remove the silent blocks from the frame, I use a common bearing puller or silent block puller, but using a proper size of socket wrench. So let's see how it works. To remove the rotor, we need a special tool. It's a common flywheel puller, whatever it's called. I call it flywheel puller, with an outer thread. The size is 28 millimeter, M28, and the thread height is 1 millimeter, so it's commonly called as 25 times 1. And to hold it, I need a 30 millimeter spanner, and to pull the flywheel I need a 19 millimeter socket wrench. So let's do it. Quite sudden. I think it's some kind of conic surface on the crankshaft, and there's a strong magnetic field because this is the generator. The coil assembly is held by 1, 2, 3 screws, and the one is missing. Oh guy. Originally it's mounted by 4 screws. That's okay now. And the next thing to figure it out is how to remove the cables, how to pull them through the holes. After removing the coil assembly, I can see some oil traces around here. That would be a sign of a worn out oil seal. Of course, it will be replaced. The ignition unit is held by 2 screws, so it's quite a rusty condition now. The console is fixed by 2 nuts the size of 8mm. It's also removed. These parts are going to be sandblasted, so I'm going to separate them. Kickstarter is held by 50mm bolt, so let's remove it. The Kickstarter bolt needs to be removed entirely because there is a groove in the shaft, so in a case you just loosen it, you are not able to lift it up. Spark plug size 21mm. Quite ugly. Cylinder head bolts are 11mm and sitting quite deep. Fortunately, the tightening torque is not too much. Cylinder nuts are also 11mm. And there are 4 of them. The piston is protected by these rings on both sides. After removing them, the clutch cover is fixed by 6 bolts, size of 10mm. So let's remove them. This nut, 18mm, secured by a lock washer. The washer needs to be unsecured first. That's it. But I will remove it. There should be another nut for the clutch. That's the nut. Its size is 18 millimeters. The clutch needs a special tool puller, the inner thread. So first we need to apply it. Okay, it's stubbed. Its size is 90 millimeters, but it's up to the tool, I think. So secured by 22 millimeters wrench. Not too hard. Surprisingly easy. So let's see what we've got here. Technically, I should be able to remove the clutch, and I can. Okay, clutch is out. To separate the crankcase parts first, I need to remove the bolts and the nuts. Size is 11 millimeters. I'm going to separate the crankcase from the clutch side using this special so-called separator tool that needs a support, and it pushes the crankshaft through the bearing and separates the crankcase parts. Not 100% perfect solution, since you can see that some of the loads are not actual, but I hope it will work. And that's it. The gearbox is out. I used the common puller to remove it, and so is the short gear cluster, but it came out together with the bearing from its nest, so I definitely have some work with it. As a next step, let's remove the gear shift mechanism in the levers. The gearbox cable guide is protected by a pin, so we need to remove it, but it's tapered, so be careful. You can go, it can go only one way out, but you can check the thickness by a gauge just to be sure. To remove the levers. Here we go. There's an O-ring on the shaft, and there's a washer, spring washer on the other. To remove the kickstart parts first, the spring is to be removed. For that I need to turn it a little to remove it from its nest. It's okay. And parts can be removed. Just check the spring position. The larger diameter is at the bottom, the smaller one is at the top. To remove the primary gear, I also need to remove this washer that supports the ring for the kickstart mechanism, and the shaft is protected by this circlip. That's right. Now let's check it out if it goes. Yeah, nice and easy. The next step is to remove all the oil seals and the bearings from the crankcase. I use various puller tools, and I consider that I'm not going to make a video of the whole process. There are a lot of material available of bearing pull processes, and considering that this video is for the whole restoration process, it would be extremely long. So I'm gonna start the bearing removal, and then the crankcases shall go for sandblasting. Well, sometimes it happens that the bearing is stuck on the shaft like this or like this. So there are several methods and tools for it, but I'm gonna use it. It's this kind of puller. So as you can see, it's got a kind of wedge here, so I can grab the bearing from the bottom side, and then I would be able to pull it off. So let's see how it works. Let's start with the smaller one. Seems to be the easier job. So the point is that it needs to be a kind of grip from the bottom side, otherwise the puller will be slid off during the pulling. So what I'm going to do now is to install the remaining parts. Now this threaded end should be in the middle of the shaft, and then you would be able to start to pull it off. Can you hear it? Sounds as the bearing is sliding off the shaft. And that's it. And the method is the same for the crankshaft.